Hi, my name is Lisa, and I'm an internal support coordinator with WEX FSM, and I wanted to welcome you all to today's session of Solution Studio. And today we are going to be going over job costings, kind of the fundamentals, job profit and loss analysis, and how you get set up for everything. So let's get started. Put over to here. Okay, so we're going to go over job costing and see how you can do it. And as a company, you can decide whether you're going to do this in QuickBooks or in WEX FSM and or both. So there are several options here, and it just depends on you as a company how you're going to do it. Let me show you in QuickBooks real quick. Let me make this a little bit bigger so that you can see it. So if you're going to vendors and you're going to enter a bill, whenever you get your bill from your vendor, you can come down here and choose customer job and point that invoice that you get from your vendor so that that will go to that job. The other thing is if you buy more than one thing on that invoice, you can separate these out by jobs. So if not everything is on one job, you can separate it out as well. The other thing that you can do is when you're doing payroll, you can go into employees and enter time on their timesheet, and you can go in and choose their name. If I spell my name, it'd be good. There we go. Choose my name, and you can point it towards a customer and what they did and how many hours a day they were on that customer's job. So you can do that in QuickBooks as well, but we have the process set up in WEX FSM. Let me clear this and get out of here. So let me show you all the things that need to be put in play to be able to do that in WEX FSM. So labor, when you create a price book product, and you put the labor on there, it's basically a guesstimate of how much time it's going to take to do the repair. And so you can put that on there, and that people get confused a little bit as why that's not the labor cost that comes over onto the job for job costing. But in our system, you can create an install and say two people for 8 hours, which would be 16 hours. But that is just a guesstimate. What we really quantify is the amount of time that those installers or techs are on a job. So you have to be able to put in a cost per hour for the user, and then when they clock in and out of the appointment, it will capture the time. So on users, so under settings, user management users, you will see that there is a place for a labor cost. And if this is in A, it's not going to pull in the labor cost on a job. So I'm going to pick on Marie. And here is where the labor cost is. And this can be their hourly rate. It can be their hourly rate plus any benefits that you offer them, vacation, sick time, health care can all go into that labor cost. So you can see a true cost of what they cost you an hour. And some companies decide that they're going to take their person who makes the most amount of money and the person who makes the least amount of money per hour and average that out and put that labor cost on all jobs so that depending on if it is a more expensive person or a less expensive person, that they're pretty much covered. But this can really dial it in if you can go ahead and figure the labor cost for each user so that when they clock in and out of the jobs, it will bring in their actual cost. Okay, so let me close this out. So we've got the job cost on the labor cost on the user. And the other thing that you need to go into is go under settings, jobs, and job preferences, and choose whether you're going to be doing job costing by cash or by accrual. And you probably already know the way that you have your QuickBooks set up is whether you're doing it by cash and accrual. And cash means that when You create an invoice. You don't take credit for the sale until it is paid. And accrual means that when you create the invoice, you automatically take credit for that sale, even though it's not paid. Okay, so just if you don't know, check with your accountant to see which one you are and make sure that this setting is correct so that when you run reporting, it will match what's in QuickBooks. And always remember to check the I, which says calculate job revenue once the invoice is issued. Okay, that you're set up correctly for what you want to do. Okay, the other thing is on more applications, price book. So to be able to do job costing in our system, you either have to use a purchase order and have purchase orders set up, and or when you come in and you create your products in your price book, you would put a cost. So this cost will be brought in to the job profit and loss whenever this item, this blower motor, is added to an invoice. Okay. And remember, accrual, it will be brought in the minute that this is added to an invoice, whether it's paid or not, and cash will be only after this is paid. Okay. So now we have the labor rate, we have the part cost. You can do a PO in our system, and you can do a combination of any of these, or you can manually enter the part cost. So if you don't want to set up your price book to have a cost on everything, and you just want to come in as you get your vendor bills and enter them on the job, you can, but it will save you a lot of time if the part cost is already here or you're using the purchase order in our system because it's like a 2-for-1. Anytime that you add it, it will be added to the job cost, and you don't have to keep going back and shuffling between all of the vendor invoices and make sure that you've got the correct job. It's already brought in for you. So if I go to my job where I'm doing the job costing for, let's see, Dawson, check Dawson. And I think I have a job set up for job costing. There we go. Okay, so when I created this, I put Mark and myself on here as an appointment that was scheduled for 9 to 10. Okay, my actual time, we were there all day, okay, on this job. So when you go to the job profit and loss, there's that 8 hours of labor times my labor cost and his labor cost. I make much more money than he does because I'm a preferred tech. And so the cost is actually on there. Okay, and I'm going to go down and we're going to take a look at the invoice that was created on this job. And I added a heat pump on here. Okay, so when I added that heat pump on there, the cost should come to the job profit and loss. And let's see, let's take another look at, I'm going to add something from Profit Rhino too as well, because if you have Profit Rhino, the nice thing about Profit Rhino now is that they are allowing the part cost to come into the job for job costing. So they used to did not do that, and we had an update to where you could come in and choose your parts, and it will allow you to bring in that industry standard part cost to the job. So let me go ahead and save and close this. And go back to my job and the profit and loss. So there's my labor, there's my product cost, my labor cost, and I put other expenses on here. So I have a capacitor on here as well as this system, this 2-ton heat pump system. And this is the cost of that parts on that price bundle that I added to the job form because I had it on there. If you add something that doesn't have a cost, it's not going to show here. And This is the one, if you look at this, this is the one that I added from Profit Rhino, and now it is pulling in that 1998 cost. Okay. I also created a purchase order for a pad because the guys didn't have one on the truck. And I put in that it came back as $300. But before they went, I had put it down here as an other expense because I knew they were going to have to pick it up and I figured it was going to be $250. But this is reality. This is what it actually cost them when they picked it up. So when you use purchase orders, see how this is in here twice and it's taking $550 for a pad, but it was really only three. All you have to do is uncheck these and it will take it out of there. So if the purchase order is the correct amount and you're using purchase orders in our system, then you can just uncheck any of these. So if this purchase order was for this whole system, you could just uncheck all of these and go with the price from your purchase order, or you can do any combination of them just so that you know that you have the right amount in there. And I did this ahead of time, so I didn't know what it was. And I put this in here. So to do correct job costing, I'd have to take this off, the 250 off. I had a lift, I had a scaffolding. I put in here for a permit. Anything like that, if you do a loan, you may want to put the contractor fee for the loan on here as well so that you're getting a true cost of what it cost you to do this job and the revenue that you created, which is the price of the invoice that you charged your customer. And you can see that I made a profit, even with the 250 on there, I still made a profit of 4,434.27. Okay. So as a company, you can see this on a job, but as a company, you'll want to see as a whole how you're doing. Okay. So we have, let me close this one out. Under reporting, we have a job profit report and a job summary report. So the job profit report will show you anything within this date range, and you can go by job type. So if you don't care by service, you're just checking installs right now, you can go through all of your installs and separate it by kind of task in your business. Sometimes these, if you're a large business, these might be separate divisions. So you can run the reporting by those divisions if you want. But if you came back and did install and went back in time a little bit, because this is a test account, we don't do a whole lot in here. You can come in here and you can see the job statuses of any that are closed, because if you're open, you're probably still working on them, okay? And any that are profitable or not profitable. So let's go by negative. So Emily Davis was an install and we lost money. Okay, so we want to go see why we lost money. So I'm going to go to this job. Anything red you can click on and the box will open it in a new tab. Okay, so I'm going to go to the profit and loss. And I'm going to see, oh, look, when Mark was on this, he didn't have a labor cost, or he didn't clock in here. He had the labor cost, but he didn't clock in. So if he didn't clock in, it's even more in the red because the labor isn't considered in this profit and loss. So you would have to go back, figure out what time he was actually there. He was scheduled from 9 to 11. Come in here, add a new entry, and put the start and end time at the job, and then mark this appointment complete. You just click in here and choose complete. And then that would add his appointment time as a labor cost to the job P&L. Okay, so we know that we're definitely in the hole here because we were already minus 362.21. If he was even there for a couple hours or longer, it would be worse. So we've got the part cost of this Daikin furnace is $2,849.78. We added a part, and then there is this other part that is $3,995. So our product cost is $6,945.15, but our invoice was only $6,582.94. So we're in the hole. And this would be one of the jobs that you want to go back and look at to see, okay, was I in a bidding war? Was the person who did this estimate just that far off on our part cost and our markup? So you can take a look at all of these negative jobs and see, okay, do I need to go back to my estimator and talk to them and go over this to make sure that they're double checking to make sure that we're going to make money on these jobs because we're not a nonprofit. We want to make money. And then it would be even worse if they applied for a loan through the system because the contractor fees for that loan would be in here as well. So if it was cash, maybe he gave them a cash discount and wasn't paying attention to the cost. There's all kinds of things that could be going on here. But that job profit report will help you identify these so that you could go in and take a look and see what's going on. Okay, you can also go back in and see all of your positive ones and see what your profit margin is and make sure as a company it's where you want it to be. If not, then you may need to go back and take a look and say, okay, I like this 98.14, but not so much the 31. So you can go back and take a look at that. And as a company, review your estimating and your sales to make sure that you're getting what you guys need out of your estimates. So this also tells you the filtered totals of the job, the average profit margin, total profit, total revenue, total product cost, total labor cost, and total other expenses so that you can get this information for your company and you can download it to Excel or PDF. Okay. So let's see. Um, the other thing that you might want to take a look at is if you're spiffing your people. Okay. So when you come back in here, there's a thing called user allocation. And user allocation is usually set up when you first start. I'm going to go back up here to settings and jobs, job types. And people set these up and forget that they're this way. It has a percentage allocation between technicians here. And this is who gets credit for that sale. And it goes by not whose name was on the invoice, it goes by who is on the appointment. So you can always click on these and come back in here and say the primary tech should get a different percentage or the additional tech could get a different percentage. It can be 100% for both of them. Just make sure you have the correct strategy on here for them so that you can go up to 100%. If not, it has to be 50-50 and equal 100%. And then when this goes into the job under user allocation, I think I got two tabs open with the same one, they're getting 50-50. So let's say you had a salesperson that was not on an appointment on this job. These are installers. They're doing the install. They're not getting credit for the sale. You can come in and choose custom, hit add user, go find someone else in the system and give them 100% and give these 0. And that way, the person who sold it in reporting will get credit for that job. Okay, so just remember that it goes by whoever is on the appointment is going to get credit for that unless you use the custom job allocation. Once you choose whoever gets this amount, you can go into the profit and loss and do an additional new expense of how much you spiff them because that is an expense as well. So if you came in here and put spiff and gave them $500 for a really good install, if it's a 15,000 and you give them a percentage, it may be a really good spiff. And that is a cost and expense as well against your profit and loss. Okay, so make sure that you have the job allocation set correctly and that you are putting any other expenses that go against that job in here. One of the nice things that we have in the system is a checklist. And I have seen companies create checklists that is from beginning to end of job. So it would be There's an estimate. Yes, we got the estimate. Um, the customer signed it. We applied for financing. All these check boxes in here. I got my permit. I ordered my equipment. We scheduled the install. We did the install. I did the registration for the customer for their equipment so that they get their warranty. I called the building inspector for the final inspection and I got paid. Everything on that one checklist for an office person to go ahead and make sure that everything was checked. So one of the other check marks that had been at the end could be profit and loss so that you can see whether you made money on that job or not. And put a note at the bottom on the bottom of the checklist, yes or no, we made money, and if not, why? And so then that way, whenever you have a checklist that's on a job, you go in and just go 5-star inspection, and I'm going to hit save. The PDF is here. So when you get done with that, you could even email it to yourself or come in here and email it to yourself or print it out so that you have it as well if you need it moving down the line so that you can say, okay, I did everything. But a checklist is a great feature that we have in the system that really goes underrated. And I also do another webinar on checklists in case you want to go over that and see how to set them up. Let's see. Um, We went over who gets credit, and product sales by user report is the one that you would use. That pulls the information by that allocation. Okay. So the allocation that we talked about on the job is either by who is on the appointment and they'll get credit for it, or that custom allocation. And you can see, you can search by user. And the nice thing about this report, it has a detail as well. So if you're seeing multiple ones, you can see each one and see the quantity sold, the product sale, the percentage, that's his user allocation, the amount, and that would be what he got credit for. And if you need to dig deeper and look at the invoice and or go back to the job, you can. So this is very handy for you. The other thing is the dashboard. So if you go to reporting and you go to the dashboard, you'll be able to get a glimpse. Let's go by this year. So we got some more in there. A glimpse of your invoice highlights, the invoice total, the number of payments, what's uncollected, and your average ticket. If something looks off on any of these, make sure that you check these 3 dots, which will tell you the module description. This is a sum of all invoices with an issue date within a select date range, and I chose this year, excluding invoices with a status of open draft or voided. Our system sees open draft invoices as not complete for this reporting. So let's say you had an invoice, you had an appointment, you had an invoice, and it was paid. We have an auto close feature that will close the job. Okay, it will close that invoice. If you go back and open it up and edit it and forget to change it back to closed, it's going to show as open draft and it's not going to pull into some of this reporting. So always make sure that you check to see, okay, I'm not seeing this large ticket one on here. Why? And you can go back and say, this is why. The other thing you can do is you can expand it and see totals. Okay. You can see what status everything is and see closed, presented. There's no open draft in here. Okay. So if I go back, you're going to come down here. You're going to see appointment statuses, payment mixes, and all that type of thing. But you're going to see your technician leaderboard down here, which will give you that allocation as well to tell you who's making your money for you. Okay. You can also expand it, and you can also check in here to see the module description, the number of appointments that have a status of complete for each tech and uses the appointment date, average invoice, not in open draft or void. Okay, so make sure you check all of those things to make sure that you are searching for the right information and you're pulling what you need for your reporting. Okay, that is basically how to do job costing in our system and a quick run through of how to do it in QuickBooks. Did you have any questions for me today?
Nope, I think that about covered it.
Okay, that's great. Let me know. In the we have a survey afterwards, so let us know in the survey if there's anything else that you'd like to see or if there's anything else that you'd like us to cover. Tomorrow is open Q&A, so you can come in and ask questions. There is a place on the registration to put the question in so that we can make sure that we have the right person on the webinar in case it's something that I'm not familiar with, or else I can look into it and make sure I have all the answers for you. So if there's nothing else today, I'm going to let you get back to work. I appreciate you coming and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, you as well.